Very lovely introduction there. Thank you very much. It's a real blessing to be here with everybody that's such amazing, inspiring people and talkers, speakers, I should say. So basically, a while ago, I witnessed a small young green marine turtle die a very slow and painful death. It died after about 3 days. We took it back to, I was doing a marine turtle research project. I took it back to the rehabilitation centre. We did an autopsy on it and found it had plastics from one end all the way down to the other end. There was about 30 different types of plastics in its stomach. That was my motivation to start to look into solutions to stop plastics going into the ocean. And to do that, I started to look at the big picture. What was happening out there? Why was there so much plastic in the ocean? And then I started to discover there was 84% of plastic leakage is coming from 5 countries, which we probably all are aware of. And these countries are located just north of Australia. So we're in a position here in Australia where we're very close to what's happening globally. So I started to sort of dig a little bit more. Why is this happening in this region? Why is that 84% coming from that area? So I discovered there was like over 4,000 islands from 10 different countries that are earning less than $5,000 a year. They've got 370 million people living in this region, and they accumulate 11 million tonnes of plastic waste. All of that plastic waste, or the vast majority of it, is either buried, burnt or dumped, usually in a river or somewhere close by, like you saw with Tim's slides. So this made me think, how are we going to stop the plastics? So the question is, how do we transform this plastic economy? How do we make it, a viable industry that we can change it? So the first thing we started looking at was people's attitudes. I personally don't hate plastics. I actually quite like them. I think they're a very versatile, amazing product, but the way we're treating them is really poor. We're using them once and we're throwing them away. These products that have long-lasting life. So you hear of the term waste management. We're always talking about waste management. I think we should be thinking about resource recovery and calling it resource recovery. Start to look at it in a positive way rather than a negative managing waste way. Thank you. So as you can see, here's sort of 2 examples. The picture on this side is what we've been working on. The picture on this side is typically what we see with our waste getting tried to be managed and pushed over into another place, pushed to another country. Now it's getting pushed back to us, and we're all going, oh, what do we do? What do we do? So with this, I started looking at it. So going sort of from the macro level of what was happening globally, I also forgot to tell you that 100% of all the plastic manufacturing companies are located in the US and the EU. There's none in Asia. So that's another interesting sort of thing to think about as well. So going from the macro scale of looking at what's happening globally, and then going down to the micro scale of what are plastics. So if we're going to work with plastics and we're going to try and stop this problem, we have to find out, what are we working with? So what are plastics? The word plastic is Latin meaning to mould. So plastikos means to mould. 80% of all our plastics that we use, which is pretty much all of the single-use plastics, can be remoulded. There's good plastics and there's bad plastics that emit toxins. So to understand this and the chemistry of plastics, it gives people an awareness and knowledge of what to work with. So I started doing these training courses in Know Your Plastics, plastics education, and it was really well received. People wanted to know more and more and more. In particular, what do they do with plastics? What plastics do they avoid? Which ones are going to hurt, injure their children or harm themselves or their children? We started looking at things like this, like the density of plastics. The plastics that are floating up on the beaches, where things like Tim and all the amazing collecting groups, most of them are polyethylene, polypropylene. So they're a type of plastic. The ones more than 50% are sinking. So what we see in the beach wash-up is about 50% of really what's going on out there. So So looking at both aspects, the global situation, the plastics, sort of looking into the mechanics and the properties of plastics, I needed to come up with a bit of a philosophy on how to work in this field. So we decided, I came up with these two principles, the plastic neutral principles, only because I love plastic-free initiatives, waste-free initiatives, but I really needed to sort of come up with something that was manageable and easy for people to understand. So the first aspect was plastics are a very practical and useful item that should be valued as a resource and not discarded. So that was principle one. That's really important to understand, and we need to get that attitude shift and that idea into people's brains, because it's us that's causing not the problem, not the plastics. Second, single-use plastics should be minimised and recycled to reduce the need for virgin plastics. In Australia, we're using about 100 kilograms of plastic per person per year. That's a lot. So if you think in 10 years, one person will use 1 tonne of plastic, whereas in other countries like Vanuatu or Fiji, they use about 10 to 20 kilograms. So Australians' consumption, and EU and US, the more developed countries, have got a very high consumption rate of plastics. And so we can all sort of take responsibility for ourselves and minimise our own personal use. And this can make a huge impact. So, in sort of like exploring that a bit more, we started developing education and training programs called the Schroder Program, going with the Schroder Program. I'm about to show you the machine that goes with this, but I'm sort of just building it so you can understand where I'm coming from. So the Schroder Program there's 3 phases to it. So we have empower people with knowledge and information so they know what's going on, like I've just explained to you about some of the statistics out there in, the 84% leakage, where it's coming from, why it's coming from those regions, and also looking at the material science behind plastics, the chemistry of plastics, how to work with them. And so the first stage, is empower with knowledge. Second stage is innovate with new ideas and designs. So once you understand the chemistry of plastics, you can start to look at which plastics are the right ones to be remoulded into another item, which can be used in building materials, which can be used in decking, a whole range of things. Which are the plastics that you want to avoid totally? So, there's all of that in there as well. And the last stage is create with providing people with the right tools and equipment. So, a few years ago, we designed this machine called a Schroder. It's called a Schroder. It's called a Schroder. Sorry, a shredder and an extruder that shreds plastic into flakes and extrudes it into filament or other small moulds. The reason why the machine is so small and mobile, it's got little wheels so it can roll around in different places. You can roll it onto a ramp into the back of a car. It uses single-phase power, so it doesn't require a lot of energy. So if you need to plug it into the wall, you're about 1,200 kilowatts. But the reason why it's so small and compact is that the 4,000 islands that I was focusing on, these islands are very remote and distant from a lot of places, and this is the reason why their waste is not being collected, simply because of the transportation costs. So if you think of all these, like Indonesia's got 922 islands, and when we go, but the rubbish is so bad in Bali, how do you collect the rubbish off 922 islands when these countries are living on $5,000 per annum per year, like per person? It just doesn't stack up. It's not economical for them. So my idea is that you take the solution to the problem. You empower them with the knowledge, innovate with the ideas, designs, and provide the equipment so they can run their own micro enterprises. And so this is what we made. We've just finished the series 2 of these machines after 2 years research and development. I'm working with some excellent engineers up from Port Macquarie and Coffs Harbour. So locally made in Australia. So after we sort of brought all this together, we started to get a triple bottom line, what they call in business. reaching economy, social and environment, or people, profits, and what's the other bit? Planet, that's it, sorry, of course. So we started, it had to be an economic model. It had to make sense to people that they would want to do it. Otherwise, why would people do this? So this is some of our examples of some bottle caps just shredded up and then made into filament. The filament people make into bags, mats, hats and all different things. But we sort of needed a little bit more. So exploring this a bit more, we started looking how do we make it worthwhile? How do we make it more economical? And how do we make people want to really do it? The closed loop economy. So we heard about the circular economy from Tim and other people today. And the circular economy is not recycling. It's a bigger picture. It's the closed loop, same thing. So basically using this model, we started, what was happening? I was going places, presenting my talk about the Schroder, but I was trying to do everything. I was trying to collect, I was trying to transform it, and I was trying to create new products. And somebody said to me one day, you're trying to do too much, just stick to the machine, the rest will fall into place, and it did. So now I have quite a number of people that come to me saying, where do we take our collected materials that we've collected from the rivers or the beaches or from the schools? We want to turn it into something, we don't want to send it to landfill. And at the same time, I'm getting people asking me where can they buy the shredded material to make for their products, to put into their recycled content for their products, their manufacturing. So I started to connect these people together. So actually, I'll go through each one. So the collectors would be Take 3 for the Sea, school groups, waste collection services. There's stacks of, this is the grassroots, it's the people, the community. So this was a recent event we went to. You can see right at the back, our little shredders tucked in the Surfrider tent right at the back there. We were demonstrating on the sand, on the beach. We drove our Schroder all the way up the beach on the back of a trailer to demonstrate for a few days while the surf riders just past north of Noosa, it was a few weeks ago, they had 200 people and they picked up 1.5 tonnes in one day just along this beach strip that people camp on. It's a really beautiful area. So we sort of demonstrated these are the collectors, these are the people that come together and are empowered to sort of pick up the litter or collect the waste plastics from their houses. So this is after we went to that beach event, we drove up to Whitsundays with the Schroder, that machine, in the back of a trailer and dropped it off at another group called Eco Barge Clean Seas. This was our first sale of the machine. That's my engineer on that side and Libby and Fiona on this side. The Eco Barge girls, they have a barge that goes around the Whitsunday Islands and they pick up a lot of litter. They've picked up 175 tonnes in about 3 or 4 years. So they've had a lot of volunteers that help them, but they didn't want to keep sending it to landfill. So they got sponsorship. Coca-Cola came and sponsored a Schroder machine, and now they're transforming it into products and other things. So, and this is the interesting thing. Before we even got up there, I had people asking me, where can we buy the shredded material from? And they were from Brisbane, furniture makers and, all different types of people. So we connected them with 3 buyers straight away as they got the machine, and they're working with them. So we put it in, do the training, and then we step back and allow them to create this micro business. This is one of the creators, Neve House, and there's amazing, 3 tonnes of material can be made into, commingled material can be made into these amazing houses. So these are the more the advanced manufacturers. So when you look at that, we've had furniture designers, house builders, building products, even concrete, a whole stack of things. Hand planes, surfboards, wow, hand planes we've been working with. And the list is going on. So people are starting to draw towards this idea that they can link into this closed loop economy and they can be part of it. And we can make lots of these everywhere. So this is the Whitsunday event. to pay for these machines and to get them into the, to do the training, we need to work with corporates, businesses that want to link into communities. So we've been doing this bit of a corporate pitch, which is really interesting for me because I'm a zoologist. So now I'm learning how to talk corporate language, which is fun. Quite interesting. But just going to them and sort of engaging with them, I'm actually really proud to say that I'm working with Coca-Cola and I'm starting to work inside the business, and helping them make a change from the inside as well. So I think it's this collaboration rather than competition, like Sarah was saying. It's really, really important because the more we collaborate together, the more powerful it's going to be and the more work we can get done. Because in the end, we're all trying to make a better world, a better, cleaner world. The next project we're working on, which is I've just come back from Bali, is Les Village. This is an amazing place where they're rebuilding the coral reef with a group called Sea Communities. And they've basically been getting university students in from all different places around the world to help restore the reef for the fishing village so that they've got an economy and they've got a better lifestyle. At the moment, the economy, I don't know if you can see, but right at the front there's a few little spare patches. That's where they make salt from the ocean, and they work very hard to get about $20 a week, day in, day out. So this group is trying to make a change for this very remote village. When I got there, there was a lot of plastic along the beaches, along the roadways, and it wasn't because that they, just throw it away or they don't care. They do care. They just don't have the options at the moment. They don't have the options like we do. So they're very concerned. All the village elders are very concerned, the teachers. They want change. So we're going into this community, working with them over a 5-year project, doing a 5-year project with some corporate sponsorship from the UK and hopefully, other places. 1 minute, okay. Oh, yes. So this is really exciting. But I must say, the last thing that I saw up there that really impacted me was all the kids playing in the water. There was a line of plastic. I got some great photos, but, tragic type photos. And then the next day I asked all the university students to come with me and we just cleaned up the entire beach. The next, and the day after that, I went back and saw the kids playing again, but there was a clean beach. So my aim is to go back to this community, empower them with the knowledge, the ideas and the equipment and the tools, and so they can create their own micro-enterprises and they can make a change in their village. So, that's the plan. And so how do we create village? This is some of the things, like for the Closedloop collectors, start a group, be part of Take 3 for the sea, be part of what's happening. Transformers, you can start a Schroder Program, you can start another program, it doesn't have to be mine. Creators use recycled products, make an effort to find those recycled products and to support those businesses that do use that material. Individuals, same thing, creators, products instead of new plastic. Corporate and government sponsor a Schroder Program or support local recycling initiatives. There you go. Thank you very much.